So you're also, like you've said, a student at Columbia College in Chicago, and I know that you have a really busy schedule. So can you kind of tell about the additional challenges it takes to do volunteer work, not only being a student, but also the president of the Student Veteran Society and basically everything else that you do?
It can be a lot of work, just like life. Anything in life, you gotta actually have balance. You gotta make time for it, you gotta plan it out. I mean, though it is a challenge, I mean, I do a full course load, I have 2 jobs, and I run the Veteran Society on the side. But if I'm able to do it, what's to say that any of you can? I mean, I guarantee some of you don't have as much on your plate as I do. So the thing is, it's up to you. How much will and life you're willing to put into something is what you're gonna get out of it.
And is it worth it?
It's worth it, because like I said, you don't know whose lives you're affecting. And when you finally do see it, it's something that, it's that sense of duty that feels accomplished again.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brian. So we'll move on to Dr. Jackson. So Dr. Jackson, when people are looking for employment and they're deciding what to list on their resume or applications, oftentimes volunteerism can be overlooked as a valuable experience. What can you tell us about the benefits of listing volunteer work on your resume or application?
One of the things that I tell veterans is that employers look for someone that's got a mindset, that's got some stick-to-itiveness, that's got some dedication and some commitment. And when they see that you as a veteran or as anyone that has volunteered, they know that not only are you going to be there for their employment, but you're going to be there because you've done some things where you don't get paid. So one of the advantages, I think, is to let people know that you are involved, you've got some commitment, and that commitment can pay off whether you're being rewarded financially or not.
So could you also tell us about some of the benefits of volunteering and why it looks good on a resume? Like you said, you know, you're doing work where you're not getting paid, but what about some other things, networking, that type of thing?
One of the things that I also tell veterans is that it's similar to student teaching. For 7 years, I taught in the education department, and we found that our young folks started out early getting to know what teaching was about by doing student teaching. Some came back and did not like it, and therefore they gave them a chance to kind of shift gears, change their occupation, change their major. They also found that they made contacts while they were there, in whether it was observation, whether it was student teaching. I try to give that same message to veterans. When you're in an organization or a situation where you're volunteering, the opportunity to meet other people is tremendous. And your name gets bandied about in a positive way. And that way, when you do go out looking for employment, you know someone who knows someone who knows someone. Like the sergeant said, he met one of the young men he was working with, met his gunnery sergeant. And you never know whose life you're going to touch. You never know who will touch your life through volunteerism.
Great. So basically, can you sum up why military veterans make good volunteers?
Again, they're mature, they know what they want, they're self-directed, they need very little guidance, they're very well known when it comes to, or very informed when it comes to the chain of command and how to get things done. Their occupation that they've had in the service is perfectly suited for knowing what to do and how to do it, and to take some of the strain off of some of the other organizations and operations because they're directed and self-motivated.
So we're going to conclude the panel discussion for today, but before we do, I would like to mention that on your tables there are some index cards. If you have any questions for our panel members, can you please write them on the index cards? While you do that, we're going to hear some final words from our panelists about the importance of volunteering, the benefits of volunteering. So let's start with Lindsay. If you have any final words for our veterans about why they should volunteer, what skills they have, that kind of thing.
Sure, yeah. I just think volunteering is just a great way to give back to your community, like it's been mentioned. And I think you all possess a certain skills that we definitely look for in our volunteers, and just what a great way to utilize those to make someone else's life that much better. I think it's a really great opportunity for you that you should volunteer for Habitat for Humanity or any other organization that really fits your passion and use that as an outlet to keep going. So.
Okay, Brian?
Overall, no one can really make the decision or force you to do anything. That's why you left the military. But it's your choice in life whether you want to inspire or help other people. That was what I chose to do thus far. And all I can really say is that I encourage the rest for all of you.
And Mr. Jackson?
We've all had the aha moments, and we've all worked with people where we see the light bulb go on over their heads. When I talk to veterans about some of the things and the strengths that they bring to the table, they don't realize how important some of those things that they did in the military can transfer over to real life. So I like to see that aha moment when you start talking with a veteran and saying, tell me what you did. Don Hewitt, who produced 60 Minutes, used to start every interview with, tell me a story. And that's what I like to do with veterans. Tell me a story. Tell me what you did. And by the time they finish thinking what's unimportant, we've been able to craft a well-developed piece of their personality and how they can share that with others.
So at this time, if anyone has any questions, I believe they put the microphone in the middle of the room. So if you have any questions, you can ask them. If not, okay, so that, oh yeah, oh great.
So, all right, I think you've convinced a lot of people, so how do they get involved? What do they do to, like, if you're a veteran, what do you do to get going, and what do schools do to get going if they want to be more involved in these kind of activities?
Okay, I can answer that a little bit, and then I'll move over to the panelists, but pretty much every single college or university has some sort of civic engagement office on their campus. At these offices, they have a wide range of volunteer opportunities for their students, faculty, anybody on the campus. Also, you can contact us at Illinois Campus Compact, and we can connect you with organizations for volunteering. Like Lindsay said earlier, it's a web-based thing, so if you went online, you could find different volunteer opportunities. One amazing site is called volunteermatch.org. Basically, you go onto it, you type in your zip code, and it gives you a whole entire list of different volunteer opportunities, and you just click on it, sign up, gives you the date, the address, all the information, and you go and you volunteer. So if any of our panel members have anything to say?
Yeah, that sounds like a really great resource too. You can always look on United Way, has a great volunteer base too. You can just type in your interests and it kind of selects some things for you, gives you some suggestions. But if Habitat for Humanity is something you're maybe thinking of, or just a lot of campuses have RSOs that are specifically geared towards a nonprofit organization. Like we have an ISU Habitat here, so if you want to bring a group or just yourself to one of our builds, you can contact the ISU Habitat and get involved that way. But I'm sure there's many other nonprofits too.
Basically, you don't have to go knocking down doors to volunteer. So there are tons of opportunities out there for you to volunteer time and skills, especially if you've been a military veteran. Illinois Campus Compact has put together some blue bags that we're going to have at the front, and they have a ton of different resources in them about different volunteer opportunities all around Illinois in this area in particular.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Of course, I have to say a few more things. But one of the ways that students also can get involved is through their coursework. A lot of campuses are doing service learning, and sometimes, you know, you really don't want to get involved, but it's required for the course or it's suggested for the course. That's another way to get the volunteers out into the community. Another way is to get the student veterans involved in some fun things, and we're talking about planning some fun kinds of activities for student veterans as the summer and fall goes on. The Student Veteran Associations is another way. If you don't have one on your campus and you need some help in getting started, we certainly would like to know that so that we can help to come out and actually sit with your student veterans. We're happy to do conversations with your veterans on your campus, just sort of sporadically if something's coming up. One of our campuses, when they first started doing this, were like, how do we find the veterans? We don't know, who they are and what they want to talk about. One of the ways that you can get them involved is by doing a brown bag lunch. Just post some signs around saying, there's going to be a brown bag lunch on Thursday. And bring your lunch. You don't have to, put anything out. Might be nice if you order pizza, though. And get them talking to each other. As I've sat and talked with student veterans in the last year, I'm hearing them saying we want to talk to each other, and some of the student veterans here will probably affirm that, because if they're going to volunteer, they like to volunteer together with other veterans. One of them said to me, we speak the same language. We can talk about things in a different way than when we're talking to anybody else. So, to have a service project for your student veterans is not a bad thing. Martin Luther King Day, National Service Day, whatever kinds of days there might be for service coming out of CNCS or out of our office or out of the state office or the commission or whatever, there are ways that you can get, your students totally involved. We love that, but with the veterans, and invite the veterans to be a part of that so that they know. Lots of potential.
Great, thanks, Kathy. Okay, so right now at this time, if there are no other questions? There might be. Questions? No? Okay, so at this time, I would like to take the moment to thank our panel members, not only for coming here and doing the panel for us, but also for all of their work that they do in their communities, volunteering their time and their efforts to making their neighborhoods a better place. This concludes the Illinois Campus Compass session. That's okay. Kathy would like to speak a few words, and then we will conclude. But it concludes the panel and my portion, so thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. They know that I'm always going to say at least one or two more things as I've been taking notes throughout the time here today. One of the things that was mentioned was the stories that veterans have. It's important to listen. I think Brian mentioned that, and Ronaldo, and one of the things that I think is important is to take the time and find the places to sit down and have student veterans talk. And sometimes it happens in the craziest places. A year ago, January, I was flying to Tampa, Florida, and I'm pulling my suitcase down the aisle of the airplane and knowing that I'm not going to be able to get it up onto the top without some help. And my seat just happened to have a young man sitting in the middle who immediately jumped up, grabbed my suitcase, and stuck it up on top. 2.5 hours later, we were good friends. As we started talking, he told me that he was a veteran. He was on his way to Tampa to just visit some other friends that he knew. He had been in Afghanistan, was back out of Afghanistan, and now had been working for the Defense Department. He said, I sat in National Reagan Airport for 8 hours waiting for my plane to get loaded and to be able to take off to fly to the Mideast. And he said, as I sat there, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need a break. He called his boss, who said immediately, you are on leave. That's fine. And he came home to DuPage County, and he was now on his way down to Tampa to visit some friends. As we talked, I started asking him questions about what he did in Afghanistan. I started talking to him about what he was interested in doing for the rest of his life, or at least for the next, month or two. And eventually we got to the point where we were able to talk about college. And he said, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And I said, well, College of DuPage is right down the road. And they have a great veterans system. They're working with student veterans and will help you to look at where you want to go with your life. We talked about some of the experiences that he had and some potential degree he might pursue, and what his interest was really in working with people and talking with people, and not carrying military supplies from one airport to another airport and flying over the ocean like every other day. But when we finished, he said, "Thank you so much." He said, "I would not have known what to do. I would have gone down, partied with my friends, come back, talked to my mother, and probably waited to go to the next party." He said, I feel like I have a new direction in my life. And I said, "Well, good, I'm glad that this conversation helped." And he said, "You should be a therapist." I was like, "No, I don't want to be a therapist." But, you know, we bump into people sometimes and we don't ask the questions. We don't pay attention to them. And sometimes we have to do that on a college campus. It's important to know who our students are and what they're doing. And, you know, sometimes somebody's wandering around a little lost. And if you're a faculty member, or if you're in the career office, or in the veterans office, you know, stop and talk to the students. At least get them, you know, sometimes when you're stuck on the elevator, that's a really good way to start a conversation, I'm finding out. But that interaction is really critical. So that was one of the things that I wanted to share with you. And I just want to also thank the panel for being here. We really appreciate your comments and taking the time to reflect on the questions that we've thrown out. Originally, we were going to have a lot of dialogue around the tables, and then my team came up with this approach, which we thought was going to be just as valuable. I think that we really want to raise the awareness of our campuses and of our students about the student veterans and the whole military mind that students have as they're coming in as student veterans, and to support that. And you've heard a lot of different ways that we do that. The blue bags are one. Coming out to work on campuses is another. Offering the kinds of support that we can really does do that. I often talk about the civic engagement wheel. We've talked a lot about volunteering, and volunteering is more expansive than just going out and working at Habitat for Humanity. That citizenship model is about civic engagement. It's about connecting the military idea of service to the courses that we're taking. It's about getting involved on your campus to do service things. It's about internships. I have a group of interns, by the way, here from Columbia College, who are going to be roaming around with a camera today. They also were coming in late because of traffic, but they're also going to be asking some of you some questions, doing some interviews, and we'll have you sign the little release form. But we want to put together some materials that are videotaped, maybe on our website, maybe taking all of the work that we've been doing throughout the semester and the year with student veterans. We've got some video and interviews from the strategic civic initiatives that we did, and putting some of that information together so that it can be used by campuses, by Campus Compact, by IBHE, to help continue to support the work of the campuses that we're doing. So just trying to continuing to connect the work that you're doing on your campuses. And student veterans, please let people know what you need, what you want. You know, as I talked to my student interns from Adler over the last 3 years, they've really helped me to see who are the veterans. They've helped me to see what you need and what you're interested in. I didn't come from a military family. I have one brother-in-law who was in Vietnam, and other than that, I didn't know a whole lot until I really started. You know, it's what you read, but not the in-depth kind of information that you get as you sit down and start talking to veterans. And I've been blessed to have Adler interns in my office for 3 years who come in and help me to understand what you need. We could not be doing this if I hadn't had that group to rely on and to work with. Thank you, Christina. So just kind of keep looking for ways that we can be supportive. An idea that has been kind of formulating is to find ways to offer veterans scholarships. We have over 700,000 veterans in this state. And, you know, as I've been talking to some people, you know, if every one of us, every veteran even, threw in $1 a month, that's $12 a month you could donate to a scholarship fund that we could have available to give to student vets to help them with their buying their books, buying you know, things that they need, materials that they needed to pay their rent, you know, whatever it might be. It's just an idea that's just sort of roaming around in my head, and I've shared it with a couple of people, but watch for some details, because I'm hoping that it might kind of create some funding. I'm always looking for funding to see how I can give more money to students and to faculty and to campuses. So watch for those details. I think I've covered all of my very scrambled notes here, so I'm going to say thank you very much for your time this morning, for listening to us go on and on about all kinds of things. Again, thank you to IBHE, to CALE, to SVA, to everybody who has been such a great partner in the work that we're all doing together. So thank you so much. Have a good rest of the conference.
All right. At this time on the official clock, it shows 10:39. I think it's a great time to have a short networking session. Everybody be back in your chairs at 1100. Thank you. Hopefully it works. All right, these next three sessions, I'd have to say, seem like they're fairly diverse and should be very interesting. I'm looking forward to them. Our first speaker is Dr. Kathy Myers. She's the Student Veterans Coordinator at Western Illinois University. There at WIU, she serves as the Assistant Director of the Veterans Resource Center and the Student and Parents Assistance Center. She assumed responsibility for coordination of support services to student veterans, service members, and their family members in 2007. Prior to joining WIU, she served as a Director of Federal TRIO programs and as a Student Financial Aid Administrator. After completing her bachelor's and master's degree at the University of Northern Iowa, she earned her doctorate from the University of Iowa. Go Hawks. Go Kathy.
Thank you, Dan, and I might want to add to that, I am now officially an Illinois transplant for almost 9 years. Very happy to be in the great state of Illinois. I've been at Western, like I mentioned, for almost 9 years, and I've worked with veterans for almost 8 of those years. When I was approached by Richard about doing a program on faculty and staff awareness of student veteran culture and the importance of on-campus space for activities, I was pretty hesitant. Immediately what came to mind is we have so many individuals in the great state of Illinois with such expertise. I didn't think necessarily that I might have something to offer. And as Richard walked me through the discussion, I just randomly started making a list. And as I went down the list and our discussion came to a close, I told him, let me approach my administration about traveling. Not that I've changed my mind, we do have so many individuals throughout the state of Illinois that serve veterans so efficiently and so effectively. But then again, I thought, if I could share the model that we use at Western with any of you, and if you can take away 1 or 2 ideas and take them and implement them at your institution or in your department, then I think it's been a successful day. Western is proud of its heritage to our military men and servicewomen. Our history, our heritage is steeped in history for more than almost 100 years. Back when, and don't worry, I'm not going to go through 100 years of Western history, but back when Ray Hansen was a highly decorated World War I veteran. And after his service in World War I, he went out to the East Coast to study with Knute Rockne. And then Knute Rockne was, sorry about that. Thanks. Knute Rockne was instrumental in helping Ray Rock Hansen in getting a job at Western as a coach. He then sought congressional approval to obtain the leatherneck, the Marine official symbol and official seal, and we still are very, very proud of that accomplishment, and we still don, most of you will know that we're known as the Fighting Leathernecks. Rocky Dog is our mascot, and again, we hold tremendous pride in that. In addition to that, I'm sorry. In addition to that, in the 1940s, our Student Veterans Club started to form. And proudly to say, over the years, it continues to be a strong mainstay at Western. I can't emphasize enough the importance of student involvement in programs, activities, resources, community service, as we highlighted earlier today. In the 1960s then, our informal group, the Peach Blossoms, were formed, and you might notice Bob Hope in one of those pictures when he actually came to campus, and he was designated as an honorary Peach Blossom. And again, that's something that's very near and dear to our student veterans' heart even today. Another aspect for Western that has helped us be so successful are our veteran-friendly policies and procedures. At Western, a veteran who is honorably discharged from military service, who has served at least 1 year of active duty, may gain admission to Western without prior regard to academic background, with the caveat that Western will be the first institution attended after their honorary discharge. So we have a very military-friendly policy as far as admissions. Now, for students who are completing service within the last 5 years of their high school completion, we will ask for their high school transcripts along with ACT scores. Those scores and those records will be used for placement purposes, but again, they will gain admission to Western. For those individuals who have graduated from high school more than 5 years ago, we will ask for their high school transcripts. And again, mainly for high school, college placement, and then potential testing for appropriate placement at Western. In addition to that, if the student were to submit the Member 4 or Service 2 copy of their DD 214, they will automatically receive 4 or 8 hours of elective credit to Western. That would consist of military science, health elective, or kinesiology. And again, that's just completion of basic and AIT. I would receive 4 credit hours. If I completed at least 1 year of service, I would receive 8. In addition to that, we encourage all of our students to obtain their SMARTS, ARTS, Community College of the Air Force transcripts, that type of thing, because we also follow the American Council on Education's recommendations for transfer credit. So those types of policies and procedures have been in place for quite a while, even before I got here. Of course, we have priority registration as well. And pretty much we've been very successful in implementing the registration for summer and fall, and approximately half of our student veterans are already registered now. To give you an idea, in 2005-2006 academic year, our student veterans approached the administration and they indicated that they were having challenges transitioning to the university. They felt that a lot of the services and programs were scattered throughout the university in different buildings. They felt the type of information that they needed to learn very, very quickly was somewhat challenging, and it took a long time. They did not necessarily know how to navigate the various types of programs and applications, or even what types of programs and applications to complete. Shortly thereafter, the administration approached me and suggested that I assume the position of a veterans coordinator, and the agreement was that it would be on a 30% basis. In other words, I would maintain my regular duties, but approximately 30% of my responsibilities would be dedicated to the approximate 500 student veterans and service members we had on campus at that time. Well, that didn't hold fast very long, because quickly I was spending 100% of my time working with veterans and service members, resolving problems, making sure they had their applications completed, that type of thing. Shortly after that, the administration approached me and indicated that a Navy veteran, his son had a boy at home, and he had just donated it to the university. And they thought about, what if we made that into a one-stop location for student veterans at Western? It didn't take me a few minutes to say absolutely. And so in 2007, on Veterans Day, we opened the Veterans Resource Center. You can tell it's a small white home, and it's been remodeled and renovated to be fully handicapped accessible. We're just off of Adams Street, which is across the street from our main administrative building. So it's a one-stop shop designed to help student veterans, service members, and their family members with everything they might need. Now, that's not to imply we do all, we are the end-all, be-all, but we will help them find the resources. If we can't help them directly, we'll certainly help them figure out how to get the job done and how to navigate the system or whatever question they might have successfully. We do provide an array of services in one location. So it's not uncommon for a student to call or telephone. We answer questions from individuals all over the world on a weekly basis. They may call, they may email, they may be just thinking about Western. They have literally might have seen the leatherneck emblem somewhere and inquired about that. But we answer questions. If a student hasn't been admitted, we will walk through in our center the requirements. We'll actually help them apply for admission if they're in the office. We also have an admissions fee waiver for all veterans and service members. So in other words, if they have at least 1 year of service, Our admissions office will waive the $30 admissions fee. Again, sends a strong message to the student veteran, we care about you, and this is another thing that we can do for you. So we help them apply for admissions, we get their fee waived, we help them, if they don't have their 214, we help them, and they don't know where it is, we help them through that process. We help them obtain their arts, smarts, what have you, their military transcript. In addition to that, we talk with them about their service, and we help them determine the types of programs that they might benefit most from. For example, if I have a student that's active duty coming to see us, we'll talk about Chapter 30, and if he's from the state of Illinois, we'll naturally talk about the Illinois Veterans Grant, how we couple those programs together. We help them actually fill out the financial aid form. In my prior life, I was a financial aid director, so we're well versed in that area. In addition to that, we're only about 40 miles from the state of Iowa. And in the state of Iowa, there is a philosophy that states that if you're attending school, you are working on retraining for future employment. Therefore, they will pay unemployment compensation to individuals who are in school full-time. So we also provide the information that if the student veteran elects to, they can go across to Iowa, apply for unemployment, and receive unemployment, usually for about a year with extensions, in addition to their GI Bill benefits and also their federal financial aid. There's also a federal financial aid regulation that says if the student receives unemployment benefits, then their EFC is an automatic 0. So this also increases the likelihood that they'll qualify for a full Pell. So these are the types of things that we'll walk through with students, and we try to streamline. It's not unusual. The student always comes first when they come through the door or they call on the telephone. We try to answer emails within a day or two, hopefully the same day. All of the staff in our office, it's made up of myself. I have a clerk who's full-time, and then we depend heavily on VA work-study students, and that's another area I want to emphasize. If you have not been involved with the VA work-study program, I really encourage you to do that. I'll show my bias here. There's nothing like a veteran employee. I can say that myself. I also hold the philosophy that anything I know, you can know. So I spend a lot of time training. Right now I have one individual who's getting ready to graduate. I have another person in training, the clerk and myself. At this point in time, it's good enough to get us through, but now we'll be entering summer orientation. I need to start training another student. And I do spend probably 30 to 40% of my time training students and staff, but that's okay because we just multiplied the staff by 4 additional people that can help others. We help the students with their immunization records, any policies and procedures at Western. We will help them identify housing accommodations, community information. We reach out. We have partnered. I think that's something that we've done a really good job at Western. We understand we can't do it alone. And we reach out a lot to various community agencies, campus departments, and everyone comes together to help that student veteran. For example, the Peoria Vet Center, our vocational rehabilitation counselor. We have our veterans service officer from the VA visit us every other week. He spends the entire day on campus and has a private meeting room where he can work with students on health care benefits, disability, check out the status of their claims, obtain difficult forms through the military, that type of thing. So we really collaborate a lot. We've also collaborated with the Iowa City VA Health Center in Iowa City. We work hard with our counseling center, our BU Health Center, our AOD office, alcohol and other drug office, financial aid, and billings and receivables. Examples would be, we are the frontline staff that see the veteran. In other words, they don't go to financial aid to apply. They don't go to financial aid with questions. They don't go to billings and receivables to ask questions about their bill. Our certifying official is also housed in billings and receivables. They don't go to the certifying official to ask questions. We believe at Western, if we can be that frontline staff and answer those questions for them, that frees up those professionals to process the aid, process the certification forms, that type of thing, so the student gets their funding earlier. Now, obviously, that doesn't always occur, but if someone does contact, for example, our certifying official, and the student's not receiving their kicker, they will refer the student right down the street to us, and then we will take the time to sit down with the student, work with the VA or the guard or whoever it may be to make that happen. We also, another point I might want to emphasize is we are also a charter member of Salute, the National Veterans Honor Society, and many of our student veterans, we have more than 100 members to date, marking this year. We just had our induction ceremony last week, and actually, there's a small fee, I think maybe 100, the fee might have raised since we joined for the institution. And then individuals who would like to join, there's a nominal fee to apply and become a member. But that's something that sends a very strong message, not only to your students that we're proud of their academic accomplishments, but it also sends a strong message to our administration. More than 50% of our veterans have a 3.0 grade point average or higher. So, and not a lot of people know that. So again, Salute brings another spotlight to our veterans. As far as programming, examples would be joint programming. We have a budget at our Veterans Resource Center. Now, this doesn't include light, equipment, or if we need, or the utility bill, the overall maintenance of the center. But our annual budget this year was $750. Because of the cutbacks that we've had. $750 does not go very far. Needless to say, I enjoy being able to speak because that almost guarantees my ability to come to the conference. On the other hand, I would not be allowed to travel otherwise. So that's one thing that prompts us to be creative and to use our resources and use our people on campus. Approximately 2 weeks ago, we showed the National Geographic film Restrepo, and we combined with the health center, the counseling center, military science. And after the film, we had a panel, just an informal discussion. The discussion went as long as the film. We were there for 3 hours, and we were very excited about it because the information that came out of the discussion was so relevant and timely that we want to take that information and implement it. We don't ever want to stop. That's the key. Some of the other types of programs, we do a lot of joint programming. We might connect with Hornfield campus. It's a wonderful high ropes, corn maze, climbing tower experience that we have just west of town. We may offer a program, a cookout or a barbecue at Hornfield campus. We connect with our rec center. At one point, we were fortunate to receive the Department of Veterans Affairs Cash Lottery grant. So we were able to do a lot of program activities, health and wellness activities, that type of thing with our student population. We don't have just Veterans Day tribute or a Veterans Day ceremony. We have Veterans Celebration Week. And we have activities throughout the week in which we contact different departments and ask them, what would you like to do to honor our veterans? The bookstore may give a 20% discount in the bookstore. There may be a free sandwich at one of the restaurants. The residence halls may have a contest, to decorate the residence halls. Campus recreation may do something. Obviously, we do have a formal tribute ceremony always at 11 o'clock on Veterans Day. In addition to that, we try to find as many freebies and discounts for our students that we can. Again, we want to show appreciation to them. In addition to that, we spend a lot of time supporting our veterans in their events, their community service activities, their internships. Tonight, for example, the Veterans Club, members of the Veterans Club volunteered to go out to the senior citizens home, and the Department of Dietetics is holding a fundraiser to send a veteran on the honor flight. So they need a few good men, so to speak, to do some of the heavier lifting chores that the senior citizens may need. So hopefully they will raise enough money tonight to send someone. A few weeks ago, we had Mom's Weekend, and the student veterans were on campus in their peach blossom garb, and they had a bagel tournament, which was popular with the moms and their students. In which they raised funds again to send a hospice patient on the honor flight. The very next Sunday morning, they were at the American Legion sponsoring a pancake breakfast, again to sponsor the hospice patient on honor flight, and they raised enough money. They raised in excess of enough money to send that patient. That's just one thing that the Veterans Club does. On the other hand, it's important that we pop in, that we stop in and we show our support, and we reinforce and we really express our appreciation to them for all that they do. When there's a question that comes up at the campus about students or activities or that type of thing, they're probably the first phone call or the first email that I send out. Hey, what do you think of that? One of the first activities we did at Western when we were formed in the Veterans Center is we formed a focus group, and we very intentionally brought in students, a very diverse group, but the majority have been deployed and recently returned. However, we intentionally asked some individuals who had transitioned already back to the university so they could also be that sounding board, and also they could make a connection. So this focus group is going to meet several different needs at the university. One of their suggestions right off the bat was get an image. You've got to pick something that we can, throughout the campus, throughout the community, identify with. So they said, we really don't care what it looks like. We just want to make sure it's red, white, and blue. So this is the image that was finally selected, and we use this to this day. It's simply a stock photo. We paid $30 for its continual use, so it's probably been the best $30 we've ever used. The other thing they asked us to do is in every student packet when they come on campus. So for example, our freshman class, when we have our 2000 class come in this summer, they want something like this in every single folder. They just don't want us to publicize and advertise to student veterans and service members. They want everyone on campus. Great idea. Wish I would have thought of that. So what we did was develop, we call it our postcard, but on the back it gives a brief array of our services. That gives our contact information and a small map. So if you're at campus, you're not sure where to go, you've got this. In addition, we've developed a resource guide. We also have our resource guide on the internet. And this is a handy booklet we give to all new students, and it discusses the different programs, our policies, our procedures. Many of those I talked with you today. The GI Bill, how to certify on STARS, which is Western's electronic system, that type of thing. It's been invaluable, and we revise it annually. How much time do I have? 2 minutes? Okay. Well, I better close. Well, it sounds like I'm running out of time. I did want to say before I close and before we ask if there's any questions, thank everyone in here for your service, and thank you for all you do for veterans and service members. Do we have any questions? I have 2 minutes.
Whether that's like the induction ceremony
Absolutely. The question is, if someone were to reach out to us, would we share the information? Absolutely. And by the way, I do want to say on the internet, wiu.edu, at the bottom of every homepage, every web page, right next to the Facebook icon, we have a Veterans tab. So no matter where you are, you can click on that Veterans tab and it'll take you to our homepage, our information, our contact, that type of thing. But we would be more than willing, quite frankly, if there's anything on our homepage that you like, take it. It's yours. Yes. Great question. She was asking about the articulation of the military credit or any transfer credit as far as that goes. Yes, I do apologize. We will work with admissions, financial aid, the office of the registrar, you know, the vice president of student services, whatever it takes to facilitate that. And again, we try to be that frontline staff person that frees them up for them to award additional credit to other students in a much more efficient and effective manner. Dan asked me to talk a little bit about our scholarship. We established a few years ago the Fallen Soldier Scholarship. We've lost 2 soldiers, obviously, to the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars. So what we did was develop a 5K run. It was, the first time we held it, it was shortly before Veterans Day. And it was very, very successful. We're pleased to say that for the first event, we raised approximately $10,000. So those funds, we are now working, we just completed our 2nd year, and we're working on an endowment. However, we do give out 4 scholarships per year to veterans, and those funds go to, can be used for living expenses, books, that type of thing. So that's another way in which we want to give back to our student veterans. And that event is getting so popular. Veterans are bringing back their family members on that weekend. They're bringing their fathers, mothers. We are going to hold it next year on Mom's Weekend, very intentionally, so it can be a family event. So we're really pleased with the activity. Thanks, Dan.
All right, thanks, Kathy. I'm a WIU grad, and I was a member of the Veterans Club there, so I'm very excited to hear how much they've grown since I've been there in the early to mid-'90s, we were a small group. Next, I'd like to introduce Zach Armstrong, who's the Midwest Regional Director of Team Red, White, and Blue. Before joining Team Red, White, and Blue, he was an exercise physiologist at the University of Michigan, where he provided both clinical and research-based expertise. Prior to graduate school, he held leadership positions in Whirlpool's Global Supply Chain Leadership Development Program. Mr. Armstrong received his BS in Engineering Management and a master's degree in exercise physiology, both from Western Michigan University. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you. First, to start off, I'd just like to say what a great day it is. Anytime I get the opportunity to be surrounded by great Americans like yourselves, people who really care, people who are boots on the ground making things happen in their community, it means the world to me to speak to folks like that and really trying to connect the pieces. Similar to what we talked about with Illinois joining forces earlier. I mean, there are a lot of great people in this room trying to accomplish similar things. So it's good to hear several of these ideas, and also to express some of the ideas that, what we have with Team Red, White, and Blue. Before I begin, I thought Rodrigo Garcia said something very eloquent about the veteran-civilian divide. And I'm hoping to excite you a little bit about opportunities with Team Red, White, and Blue, whether you're veteran or civilian, and how we can connect and start to bridge that gap. So I appreciate the introduction, but once again, the director for the Midwest region we have 12 states for Team Red, White, and Blue, anywhere from North Dakota, South Dakota, all the way to Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. But I also get a chance to be the Chicago chapter captain, which is, one of the most meaningful things I've done in my life, to actually connect veterans to community members within our organization. And I'll tell you a little bit more about some of the stories and what that really means, so you get a feel for that. I do feel that it is important for you all to understand that I did have a little bit of a different background before I took this position. I do think there's a lot of meaning to that. With some of my previous works at the University of Michigan clinically and research-based, I had a different passion, and I'll talk to you about how that really ties into what I'm doing now with Team Red, White, and Blue. So a few brief questions before I really start. So raise of hands, who here today either knows someone or is someone who had difficulties reintegrating, or once they got out of the military, just had a difficult time? So, by show of hands. All right, several of you. Thank you. All right, so I'm talking to the right crowd here. Whether it was yourself, whether it was your brother, your sister, your mother, your father, I think a lot of us are touched by that, and leads into my second question of, who here enjoys being part of a team? Raise your hands. All right, even more hands, so fantastic. What we feel this team environment through Team Red, White, and Blue provides is a sense of purpose, some camaraderie, and opportunities for friendship between veterans and civilians. And I'll show you, and we'll also see a short video of why we think this is a great approach and how it can bridge several gaps with many other organizations as well to accomplish so many things in our community. My story. Okay, you understood I worked at the University of Michigan, and I come from a military family. Now, I did not serve myself. My grandfather got a chance to serve in World War II, Army. My Uncle Greg, down in the bottom left, served in Korea, once again Army. And then my brother Nick, my oldest brother, 5.5 years older. Nick's an Army Ranger. He served in the 10th Mountain. And he served in Bosnia, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And to say that his reintegration was difficult would be an understatement, complete understatement. And Nick is the reason why I changed fields, because I saw a need and I saw a way to really make a difference. Starting out as a volunteer with our organization and then leading into being one of the lucky ones to work full-time for Red, White, and Blue. But when each time Nick came back from overseas, it was more difficult. Not only for Nick, it was really difficult on Nick, but it was difficult on our family and difficult on our friends. But why I'm telling you this is because Team Red, White, and Blue was the magnet in the middle, is what I like to call it. It was the opportunity for Nick and I to come together to do something positive. We race together, we walk, we run, we do social events, we do fun things that are a little bit easier to talk about, that build up not only our love for each other and our friendship, but we get to bring other people along for the journey as well. And I feel personally that our organization does a great job, and I would like all of you to understand what that feels like, whether it's with a family member or bridging other gaps, other spaces to bring other people and get them involved in a community, and something that I feel is very, very meaningful. So thank you for listening to my story there. So Team Red, White, and Blue, who are we? We are all-inclusive. We are veterans, we are civilians. Our mission is to enrich the lives of America's veterans by connecting them to their community through physical and social activities. Okay, physical and social activities, what does that really mean? When we talk about physical activities in sports, there's a heck of a lot of research showing that this does accomplish several things. Brings people together, establishes opportunities to have meaningful relationships, has that camaraderie option, sense of purpose and accomplishment. A little bit of outline of what I'm going to talk about the rest of the time here. I'm going to show you a quick video so you get to see and hear other people's stories of why this is meaningful and how you could become part of this. I'm going to talk a tiny little bit about the current reintegration environment and a study that McKinsey Consulting did and that we reference quite a bit that's helped us form our mission in such a short time. Our approach and how we actually go about making this happen, how we work with local partners, and then RWB in your local area. So if you all could please watch this video, very short video. Excuse me, technical difficulties here. Here we go.
Got out of the Marine Corps, I really didn't have a sense of direction, really didn't know where my life was going. Through Team Red, White, and Blue, I found myself again who I was.
I was introduced to it actually from an old girlfriend that I was stationed with in the Air Force. Her and I did marathon training, and when she got PCS to a different base, we had to train virtually. And she suggested that I join Team Red, White, and Blue in my area. Life got kind of busy. I was training on my own. I did a marathon by myself, and figured, you know, this really sucked to do this alone.
I got involved because I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I was looking for a way to give back. And since I've joined, I've lost about 50 pounds, and I've been running nonstop and cycling with the group, and now I'm the Veteran Outreach Director.
I was a little bit apprehensive at first because it was a veterans group, but once I got to know some folks and participate in some of the activities, it's pretty fun.
I like being involved with Team Red, White, and Blues because it does a number of things. One is it helps bridge a gap between veterans and civilians. When civilians go out and they run with us or run for us, it shows us that they're willing to make a sacrifice too. Working out, running, you know, doing all that stuff, rock climbing, that's the kind of sacrifice I see speaks to people. You to succeed beyond being a veteran. They want you to have a better life for yourself, for your family, and they're invested in it.
I see every day that we're touching lives and we're getting veterans to be more active and feel like they have, you know, friends and family in the area, even if they didn't before.
To see an organization start off with just a few veterans and to watch the organization grow the way it has here in the Houston area, you know, I see the great things that they do with veterans, the great things they do within the community. And that's why I continue to support Team Red, White, and Blue.
Houston is a big city, and I feel that we have a lot of veterans, but because we don't have a base there, there's still a lot of veterans that aren't aware of this group and all the resources and help that it can provide to them.
I tried CrossFit about this time last year and didn't do very well at it, but Chris Waddell and Dan Cowart and Georgina all, you know, stuck with me instead of just like letting me fall to the wayside. And I noticed that the people in this chapter, they're here for you, to support you.
I feel that when the military men and women make that transition out of the military, there's like a wall there dividing the military from the civilian world. And with Team Red, White, and Blue, they welcome veterans, they welcome civilians, community leaders. And I think as a whole and as a group, they can make that transition so much easier for the veteran.
There's a lot of misconception about our veterans when they come out of the military, but genuinely, if they have a place where they can have someone they can relate to, we can help battle a lot of these issues.
The military is a snapshot of America, and more Americans understand what veterans go through in the transition, and they're better able to just to adapt and be more of a productive member of society.
Well, thank you. While I get this going again, when our founder, Mike Irwin, started this organization in 2010, we haven't been around very long. He was at the University of Michigan, finishing up his master's in positive psychology, and he was all for finding ways to connect American citizens to veterans in the community, and in a way that veterans thought was meaningful. So getting back to bridging that gap, that's what our mission is based on. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the veteran situation, what we based our mission on, actually asking veterans what they wanted, and talk to you once again about how to get involved and some of the successes we've had with other student veteran groups and how we can all do this together. So, 2.5 million Americans served in the global war on terror. And I feel Rodrigo or someone also pointed out earlier, there's about 1.2 to 1.5 million getting out in the next 4 years. So, a survey in 2009 stated that a quarter of the folks who've served have some sort of PTS. And how this is actually slowly being removed from our national consciousness, the time is now, and that's why we're all here, to find solutions to connect our veterans in meaningful ways to what they need. So there's an increase, there's a need for support, and exactly why we're here at Combat to College. So this is the first of two quick slides I'm going to show you of what we based our strategy on. When McKinsey Consulting did this research, they found 6 things that veterans valued. They valued, at the very far right, professional life. So clearly a lot of emphasis through many other organizations is working on trying to find veterans jobs and the resources. Relationships with family and friends, there were 42% of respondents either agreed or strongly agreed. I think this was 904 veterans across the country who participated in this. 37% wanted a service to the community, enjoying community service. We talked about Habitat for Humanity. We do projects with several other organizations where we rock the eagle. We get a chance to go out there, wear red, white, and blue, and volunteer. Camaraderie, like our veterans said they would exercise if it was in a group setting. 36% agreed or strongly agreed. They wanted PT. They wanted that physical activity. And then last, they wanted a connection to the broader community. So, what this is saying is, or at least I see, red, white, and blue, we designed our strategy around this. Our veterans were asking for, and I feel like we accomplished about 5 of the 6 things while we may not actually help with professional life, some of the veterans or communities who have jobs or other people who are in our network actually often, can help out or know where to point people in the right direction. The second and final piece of our strategy is, we found that there were 3 distinct groups of post 9/11 veterans. Starting at the right again, the connection seeker, talking about that student veteran. These folks tend to have a little bit more time on their hands. When I speak to other groups about this, I like to talk about when some of my Marines come up to me, they say, I feel underutilized when I go to school. Like, I feel like I have more to give. Like, they came out of the service and they have a little bit more to give. So, we designed an organization not just around post 9/11, but there's actually a lot of opportunities for post 9/11 veterans, whether they're students or not, to get involved in our organization and lead. Family focused. The middle piece where, they may be less excited to do some of the consistent physical activity, but anytime we have family events around, they're jumping at it because it's a welcoming, positive environment that's healthy. And then the driven folks, these are the folks who right away once they get out of the military, they're asking for leadership roles, whether it be in the community or Team Red, White, and Blue. So once again, we designed our strategy around what veterans value and finding ways to get them to lead in their community. So the gap in services, once again, we designed our organization around mobilizing our American citizens to connect with veterans, where they're at. So, I'll speak to it right now. I go into a little bit more detail later, but we're in 100 unofficial locations across the country right now. It's probably 70 official locations. We have 3 great chapters in the state of Illinois. So we got a stronghold here, and we're growing every day. One of the last little piece I'll share you about this gap in services is we found that nearly 60% of veterans do not return home to their home county. So what does that mean? That means that if we can find ways as leaders in our community to connect our folks, if they're not coming back to a social network, and I would argue that if someone served overseas for 2, 3, 4 years, when they come back, they might not be coming back to the exact same place that they left. So finding unique ways that are meaningful to our veterans to connect them is why we're here. As non-governmental organizations offer many types of therapeutic support, but no other veteran NGO focuses on consistent exercise and consistent community events. To be a chapter with Red, White, and Blue, they have to put on at least 4 PT sessions a week and 1 social a month. So consistent opportunities to make connections within the community. So our approach, once again, I talked to you a little bit about our chapters and communities, but once again, it's consistent exercise. This exercise could be nearly anything. We have walkers, but it also could be something fun. Like in Chicago, we did stand-up paddleboarding on Lake Michigan. So a lot of unique ways. We value what our veterans want, and each area is different. So while we may be able to do something like that in Chicago, someone in St. Louis, Carbondale, wherever our chapters are at, whatever our veterans are asking for, we're trying to find those unique ways. Community involvement. I did speak a little bit about what we do with potential like Habitat for Humanities or the Special Olympics, Muscular Dystrophy Association. Our veterans still want to serve, so finding ways to get them to connect with citizens while serving. And once again, any member of the community can do this. So we started the organization to connect more veterans to American citizens because the social consciousness is changing, and each day we're being further and further removed from the wars overseas. So the last piece is our programs provide a positive environment for all of us, veterans and community members, to build confidence, esprit de corps, that team structure, and then adding goals. Like, I would like you to walk away thinking about Team Red, White, and Blue as not a charity. Like, that's not who we are. We're a challenge. We're trying to connect people in positive ways and to get them to take charge of their own health and wellness. So our impact, we have over 37,000 members. We have about 70% veteran and active duty, and we grow by about 550 members a week. So growing really fast. I'm looking for the right leaders all across at least the Midwest in my region to empower and to build great opportunities for veterans to connect with community members. 98% of our veterans, we survey our veterans every 6 months, and 98% of them found Team Red, White, and Blue experience rewarding. A couple interesting pieces here. 81% felt connected to their community. Once again, that survey that I showed you before by McKinsey saying that such a few percentage of our veterans felt connected once they got back. Right here, 81% are feeling connected to their community after 6 months of Red, White, and Blue. And then an interesting piece here, 18% report decreased usage of alcohol. So I feel like there's a lot of benefit towards what we do, and also our tangential benefit of working with other great local partners. So the last piece I have for you is RWB in your local area. TeamRWB.org is where you would go to sign up. It's very quick. It's take you less than 30 seconds to sign up, join the team, and I'm happy to answer any further questions, and my email address is right there. So thank you for your time. What's that? Yes, do you have any questions? Yes, miss. Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have several adapted athletes, no doubt about it. I don't have that percentage off the top of my head, but each chapter does consistent opportunities for our adapted athletes. And, you know, the neat thing, at least I can speak to what we do in Chicago very well. You know, we have rowing events, we do the Valor Games, several other opportunities where not only is it just adapted athletes, but we do competitions where we're pairing adapted athletes with other veterans, with other community members, and we have competitions. So it's actually pretty fun, pretty engaging. Yeah, thanks. Other questions? Yes.
What can you talk about in terms of like the deliberate actions that Team Like White and Blue is taking to partner with other communities, like SBA chapters specifically, or Legion Post, other places where veterans are currently members of or engaged in those types of selectives?
That's a great question. So a little bit of background, we have over 450 volunteers making this happen, boots on the ground. So how we make this happen is through volunteer leadership, veterans and community members. And each area is inherently different, so a lot of these leaders seek out what is meaningful to their veterans in each unique area. So for instance, my veterans in St. Louis, or my veteran leaders in St. Louis may have different priorities with who they know in their network to work with different organizations. But I would say as a national staff, which there are 9 of us now, you know, we do ask them to work with the SVA chapters in their area. So they do have more or less a playbook of options, and then they decide what is meaningful to them in their local area. Yes. Absolutely. And I would say there are opportunities for, you know, singles as well. Like there are different events that we try to provide a diversity of opportunities for our veterans to connect with American citizens. But in the family regard, you know, nothing touches my heart more than, you know, having the chance to bring the kids around and the dogs and make it more casual, more informal. But speaking specifically about the Sky High trampoline, like we do have an emphasis on creating family-friendly events because we know not only our veterans, but our student veterans have families as well. Any other questions? All right, thank you for your time.